Hi. So I guess I just want to start off to clarify that question that I asked today about the scarves, the color of the scarves, and boys and girls wanting specific colors, and we're talking about that, they're socially constructed and what they want in terms of gender association, pink for girls and blue for boys, that kind of thing. And I actually did my paper on color coding, and so I ran into this a little bit in my research, kind of just to avoid it when avoid those types of color associations when conducting research in the first place was one of my conclusions because of those emotional and socially constructed connections that the kids have to those colors. You don't want that to cloud the data, and I was talking about retention and not anything else like that. So I ran into it a little bit, and I guess what I wanted to clarify is that I generally speaking don't entertain discussions or debates about the color of things that I pass out to my kids. I didn't want that to, or at least I thought it came across that way at least a little bit. And it's not so much that, it's more that it seems like in every other facet of their life, they're so used to that barrier of boys not having pink things and girls not having, or girls wanting to have pink things. And there's, some other more complicated ones too. Um, but those are the main ones, and it just seems like they're so used to doing that in every other facet of their life that no matter how many times I mentioned it and how many times I enforced the lack of complaining, it's not like they refused colors, but they made a little mini stink about it towards the end of the year, even after spending a fair amount of time taking over. I'm thinking of mostly the youngsters that I worked with, the kindergartners, first and second graders, and a lot of what I do is classroom management, just because there's such a wide variety of behavior issues that can come up. Um, I'm always trying to cut down on that, obviously, and maximizing instruction time. So again, I don't entertain those types of discussions, but I still notice that boys will make a little stink about having something pink, and it's not necessarily going to affect my instruction, but it's still taking something away for it. They're still uncomfortable, and that's still a problem for me. It's less so much the being distracted by the me as a teacher being distracted by the scarves, and that being a time consuming big deal. It's less that, it's just that it takes something away for boys. I get that. I mean, I was probably at some point a little uncomfortable having pink things through no obvious fault of my own, and I don't think I made a big deal about it, but it still sometimes takes something away from it. And I'm not going to be able to, even in the course of a year, necessarily deconstruct all of the discomfort that boys will have with pink things, and girls will have with some other colors that aren't feminine, or what they think should be feminine or something like that. And so, I don't want to interpret it as necessarily as my job to immediately have, a direct impact. I don't want to say it that way. Is that I'm dubious right now as to how much of an impact I can have even over the course of the year on deconstructing that kind of thing without having a highly philosophical discussion with these little kids every single day. And that can be time consuming. And I wish that there was a little bit of that more happening in other areas, I suppose. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I've kind of, oh, that's my phone going off. I guess I'm kind of struggling with that right now because I didn't let it distract me, but I still noticed that it causes some discomfort where there really shouldn't be any. And while it doesn't necessarily take away class time or distract others, on an individual basis, you want people, especially with music, engagement is key. You want them to be as into it as possible, having fun in every opportunity that you can. That's not distracting or detracting from what I'm teaching. And so that's just one little opportunity where I feel like there shouldn't be discomfort, and I don't necessarily think that I have the capabilities or the time to totally deconstruct all of what these little kids have been taught, and me too when I was a kid to a certain extent, but what these little kids have been taught about, what they should be wearing, and what is expected of them. It's from what they see, and it's from what people tell them. It's what, basically with these kindergartners, very few of them have any control over their hairstyle or clothing in the first place. And so boys come in wearing blue, girls come in wearing pink. It's just It's just how it is, and I don't really know how much of an impact I can have on changing that. But I mean, I suppose having your own class from the beginning of the year, you can have as much an impact as you can while still teaching a music class on changing at least the discomfort and the ability to move on without letting it bother you while you were doing classwork. Because it might not directly affect every lesson that you do, but I mean, if you're not having as much fun, then maybe you're not engaging enough in a concept that's going to be important later on. Every class matters in that way. So I don't know. That was something that I was thinking a lot about towards the second half, and especially after the talk today, was just that at least with my limited training and knowledge and understanding, it would take me most of class time just to have these discussions, especially with the younger kids, where the concepts are more difficult. A lot of the time, sometimes they get things and just deal with it. But um, and my job is to teach music, and so I guess that's a little bit of a struggle for me right now. Is not exactly what your level of responsibility is, but what should you expect your level of potential impact can be when you have basically we have a limited availability to kind of instill these um, ideas where they shouldn't be uncomfortable in situations that don't call for it, but they are for so many reasons that are out of my control potentially. I guess that's where I was going with that. Right.